Gravity Falls, a show that premiered in the year 2012 on the date of June 15th, making out to be approximately just 3 days before the birthday of Alex Hirsch, the creator himself, and also the perfect timing for a show like this, as it was a show about the life of both Mabel and Dipper Pines and their extraordinarily bizarre discoveries while spending the summer over at their Grunkle Stan's Mystery Shack in Oregon. Now, surprisingly, Alex Hirsch was not born in Oregon, however he was merely inspired by the state, as it was a place during his childhood where he would spend most of his fondest memories. But it was captivating to know that most of the show's characters are based off of actual people within his family, with Grunkle Stan being a slight representation of his uncle, and of course Mabel and Dipper resembling himself and his twin sister. I mean, heck, Seuss apparently is a character based off of a person he met within his college who would constantly break and yet also resolve things. This man's life sounds like a TV show. Now, before I go any deeper into the backstories behind the making of the show, I need to give credit where it's due, as this show originally was something that I myself had put down upon its release, as did quite a few others. Remember the Watch Mojo incident? The backlash against their list of most hated Disney shows had gotten so much backlash that they had even went as far as to change the thumbnail of the video. Plus, they should totally take Kick Buttowski off the list while they're at it too. I mean, the show slapped harder than the majority of Disney's reality sitcoms.
Procrastination is a funny thing, and I'll tell you all about it as soon as I check out this website that shows what I'd look like with a nose job. Here's what I'd look like with George Clooney's nose.
Gravity Falls for me personally began to become more interesting at episode 19, literally the exact episode Alex Hirsch even describes during an interview to be the turning point of when the tone within the show begins to shift into an even darker story.
In the episode Dreamscapers, we see that Mabel is wearing a sunset sweater. That is meant to symbolize the descent from our storytelling from a brighter story to a darker story.
Now, a part of me began to enjoy the material even more because of its slightly darker and gritty nature, but another part was beginning to notice that this show clearly was doing something different from other shows. And that's not to say secret messages haven't been done before. People have been doing stuff like backwards messaging and hiding little Easter eggs into content for a while now. But things begin to change when those same clues were part of the growing continuity within the series itself, and how paying close attention to detail was now a method for the audience viewing the program to stay glued to the television. For people like me especially. I was a young teen at the time, so I was the guy that would at times stay up nights watching Easter egg videos and video games, so uncovering them in a TV show sounded like fun. And oh, after the 4th episode of season 2, I was officially prone to watching it all the way through. Think I was the only one? Nope. The show's popularity became so incredible that it was purposely switched over to Disney's new channel, Disney XD, and became the most watched program, making not only the show a success story, but the channel as a whole itself. Now, realistically, years later was the legendary Phineas and Ferb 3-day marathon run of the series in order to help promote their Phineas and Ferb Across the Second Dimension TV movie, which ended up surpassing even Gravity Falls' 10.7 million viewers before their very own takeover event. But let me explain why those are still rookie numbers. It took Phineas and Ferb 3 days to collectively receive that 10.9 million views, while Gravity Falls only needed a mere 24 hours for their 10.7 mil. Talk about quality over quantity. Okay, but it's not to say that Phineas and Ferb is a bad show, okay? Phineas and Ferb is still one of the greatest cartoons of all time as well, okay? No cap. Gravity Falls was a show that not only had wonderful story progression and mystery beyond expectations, but it had heart, and it told a story about a broken family and a sadistic relationship between two siblings, with another generation of twins within the same family experiencing similar hurt, and how the original twins in a way inspire them not to make the same mistakes they made while growing up. One major criticism I always had, however, was that I longed for us to be able to see more of the Pines' parents, and surprisingly no, I'm not referring to Dipper and Mabel's. I'm one of the few that actually liked how they kept their identities of Mabel and Dipper's parents unshown. It gave me the cow and chicken vibes. I don't know if I was the only one thinking that way. But no, instead, it would have been nice to at least see more of Stanford's parents. How did they react to Stanley's fake death? Was Stanley leaving the family truly the last time they met face to face? And are they even alive at the time? But back to the mysteries and beyond with this show. Alex Hirsch and the team risked their lives on the line. Figuratively, and literally.
Kristen almost died while recording Mabel, which shows how dedicated she was.
Wow.
She was super sick.
She had to be rushed to the hospital, right?
Wow, what happened?
Yeah. Yeah, that was fun.
That was pretty intense.
What happened? Like, what, fever?
Oh, well, I had an ectopic pregnancy and it burst my fallopian tube open.
Oh my
And then I
god.
internally bled for about 2 liters of blood.
Oh my
Jesus.
god. Dude, internal bleeding is serious too.
Well, and this was like,
Serious.
just so you guys know, like the context of this, like we're recording like Mabel just being like razzle dazzle, I like pigs, and then like in between every line, Kristen would be like, oh, I need to sit down for a second. I think I feel a little bad, but you kept going.
Creating faked interviews with the characters of Gravity Falls with Gravity Falls Gossiper, creating a Reddit page for communicating with fans, dealing with Disney's incredibly strict over-the-top at times S&P restrictions, and more that I can't wait to discuss later on in the video. But for real, if you haven't seen the video compilation of Alex Hirsch giving the fans a rundown of just what he and his crew had to put up with while producing the cartoon, it's a must-see. I may give out the link to it in the description below, so I mean, it's just that good.
Page 11. Please revise Wendy's response, "Aw, crud dang," as crud has an inappropriate slang definition.
How is this my life?
For the people we do see within the show often, there's a ton of growth amongst every character, just about. Mabel is a fun and eccentric character with a bubbly personality, yet struggled with the idea of growing up. Dipper, despite being incredibly intelligent for his age, wasn't very great at making friends or being brave. Gurkle Stan and Stanford struggle with similar problems, as do Mabel and Dipper, but suffer more with a layer of unforgiveness at first. Pacifica in the beginning is a needy rich brat. Gideon has possessive issues and a constant itch of wanting to be loved. Sue surprisingly just overcomplicates most situations. Toby Determined is determined to report on the news cycle, but lacks the proper tools and right spirit, but in the end, all of this changes. Even former villains within the series, including the ones already mentioned, come back later in the end to come together and help forge an army to fight against the chaos Bill Cipher acts upon the town. And oh, how can we forget about the main antagonist of the entirety of the show himself, Bill Cipher. This man from the jump never showed any remorse for the things he did, and had plenty of time to reform, and this being has lived for billions of years. Known for eradicating his very own dimension, including his family within it, we can say without a doubt that Mabel pretty much made a deal with the devil in a sense. Much like the snakes portrayed within Ford's Fortune, he's incredibly deceptionist, cunning in his ways of getting people to make deals with him, and has no limits on who or what he has to sacrifice in order to achieve his goal in universe domination. And his downfall is one of the greatest reverse Uno tricks of deception of all time, something that fit for him perfectly from all of the many times he's hoodwinked others since practically the beginning of time. And despite how simplistic the ruse was, it was enough to convince Bill, soon giving us one of the best endings to a villain ever. And you know what? And speaking of deception... Alright, I'm not in this video until we get to the bottom of Alex Hirsch and his team's ingenious ways of giving us, the audience, some of the most interesting red herrings for nearly every theory we the fans had. The biggest, and quite honestly the most impressive, diversion was the hoaxing of a supposed leaked image of McGucket writing to the journals, which sparked the internet into a frenzy. And to top it all off, Season 2, Episode 6 made people think for certain that this would have been the reveal of the true author. That is, until the episode does a complete 180, and instead shows us that McGucket was his assistant instead. Oh yeah, and then it was finally revealed by the troll artist himself that he intentionally posted the leaked imagery onto 4chan to confuse us all. You son of a... The man and his crew were so smug about their success in nearly trolling an entire fandom that they had the audacity to expose how they did it in front of everyone during a literal Creative Talent Network Expo panel held back in 2014. The other cherry on top that ticked off quite a few people, including myself, was the crew playing these games when it came to teasing over the potential of Stanley's death in the end. With his clay double's head being decapitated from off of his body in Season 1, the famous promo art for Weirdmageddon Part 3 including the imagery of Stanley's top part being incinerated, and more. Especially including the fact that Alex Hirsch tweeted and said that at least one character was going to die by the end of the series. But you know what? I'll give him props. I'll give him props, alright? One character did technically die by the end of the series, and it was the mayor of the frickin' town of Gravity Falls, which explains the episode the Stanchurian candidate, alright? It was revealed that he was the one to die. And as it turns out, all of the different clues that we were given before the finale, with Stanley being shown with his head off and almost all of these promotions, is basically a reference to the fact that Stanley loses his mind. He gets his mind erased, and while Bill is inside, and after they deceive Bill into getting inside of his head, he dies alongside with him. But thankfully, by some Disney miracle and a coincidence, but not really too much of a coincidence, in all detail it actually kind of makes sense. Thankfully, the main reason why McGucket struggled so much while using the mind erasing gun is simply because they were long-term effects of him using it over and over again. While for Stanley, it was his very first time ever using it, and thankfully the family came together and put the memories back into him before it was too late. Since then, people, including myself, made a theory saying that Bill Cipher could potentially come back, you know, since maybe if they even mention Bill Cipher in front of Stanley, then all of a sudden he returns back inside of his mind, and then he can escape from there and try to wreak havoc some way, somehow, making a deal with someone else. But I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that Gravity Falls will not be having any more reoccurrences anytime soon. Definitely not a season 3, I know that for sure. I remember that Alex Hirsch did say in a Reddit post that he was planning to do either 3 seasons or 2 seasons in a film. However, the movie film adaptation, I think it's just simply not gonna happen. The Gravity Falls Journal 3 Special Edition and Regular Edition was, I bet, Disney's way of saying, hey, here are canon stories both within the story of the seasons that you've witnessed and actually afterwards as well, so that way at least the fans would be satisfied with something. Another beautiful concept that Alex and the crew put together after the series ended was the Bill Cipher statue hunt. That was one of the greatest moments of Gravity Falls fandom history. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't one of the people that participated in that since I don't exactly live in that area, so better luck next time, Charlie. However, it goes to show just how dedicated and incredibly massive the audience for Gravity Falls truly is. And to this day, I truly believe that they'll still show up the numbers if they were to bring Gravity Falls back in some form. I really believe that. This show was, in a way, a renaissance of Disney animation, especially considering the fact that shows like Amphibia, Star vs. The Owl House, and even other shows that I truly believe to this day weren't even supposed to be as serious and as analysis driven as it is. Things like Infinity Train, that's a show that also I believe was something that probably was going to be in production eventually, but became even more encouraged to be aired on television once shows like Gravity Falls showed, hey, we can do this in shows and we can do it like this, and show different clues and codes and get people interested and hooked into figuring out different mysteries and making these analysis videos that get people even more tied into the show, things like that. But of course, that's also not to say the fact that Steven Universe was another down-to-earth show that also was intentionally meant to be hardcore and analyzing and mostly into mystery as well. But when you compare the two, there's pretty much no comparison. I mean, at least for me, Gravity Falls, better show. Anyways, this video has become one of the longest videos that I've ever made in a while now. I don't think I've had a video this long in probably years, I can say. But that just goes to show how much I love the show and how much I love their creators as well for creating such amazing characters, amazing backstories, and the different art in it, and, you know, the true meaning behind Gravity Falls. Relaying the message that things in life do change, unfortunately. Whether it's for the greater good or whether it seems like it's something that you may not want to happen. But in the end, the memories that you made and left behind are everlasting. Thank you, Gravity Falls. Thank you, and happy 10th year anniversary since your first premiere back in 2012 on June the 15th. This definitely was one of the absolute greatest shows of all time, and it inspired a lot of people to not only do videos and analysis, but it also inspired different other creators to step up and make very great and creative shows in the end. I can say without a doubt in my mind that this entire show has been a staple onto my channel, and it definitely inspired me to make videos and actually keep going and do more video editing skills and camera work and all that. I never thought I would get into all this kind of stuff, but this show actually opened up doors for me in a way, and I would like to thank the show for that as well, and as well as the creator himself, Alex Hirsch for creating a masterpiece of a show within just 2 seasons. This has been The Next Big Thing with his gratuitous Gravity Falls special, and I would like to end the video saying, stay weird.
Why isn't it possible? It's just not. Why not, you stupid